In this video, we're going to take a look at a brand new feature available in Automatic CSS 2.4, which is the ability to quickly and easily add corner ribbons to your website. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I really think you are going to love these corner ribbons because they're easy to use while also having a lot of power under the hood. And we're going to take a look at exactly what that means, how to customize these ribbons, how to position these ribbons, create multiple different ribbon styles, and even use ribbons dynamically inside of query loops. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is a pricing section from Frames. This is pricing section alpha. I've just added a little bit of light blue styling to the cards. This is my website's action color at the current time. And what I want to do is I want to add a corner ribbon to this middle pricing option to let people know, hey, this is the best option available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a basic text element right here. And I am going to just change the text. Whatever the text of this text element is, that is the text of your corner ribbon. So I'm going to say best option. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And we can view this on the front end. You're going to see that my best option little HTML or my little text element is right there ready to go. Now I'm going to make one adjustment. This is not a necessary adjustment, but semantically speaking, let me go ahead and click that so I can get back to this panel right here. Semantically speaking, this is not a div. And in Bricks, it uses the div by default. More accurate would be like a span tag. So I'm just going to change that to span. Again, it's not necessary, but it is kind of the crossing the T's, dotting the I's kind of thing. You don't want divs that are not actually divs. This is a span, so we're going to make it a span. All right, to turn it into a corner ribbon, all I have to do is add one class, and that is the class of ribbon. And you can see immediately that our text element that was down here jumps up here to the top and it looks different. Now, it does not look like a corner ribbon, but it's starting to look kind of like a ribbon. And the next thing we need to do is just position it. Once we position it, then it's absolutely going to look like a corner ribbon. So there's only one more step that we have to do. And what we're going to do is use a modifier class. This is a ribbon with a double dash, and then we're going to say top right, and it's going to position it in the top right. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to refresh, and we have a corner ribbon. It is easy as that. Now, because of Firefox, okay, we have to do one more step. Now, it looks fine because I'm in Chrome, but in Firefox, it would not look good. It would be all broken, and that's because Firefox does not support the has selector. It's called :has. It's a brand new, more advanced selector. And every browser basically that everybody uses supports it except for Firefox. And so we have to do one more step to make sure our Firefox friends see our corner ribbons correctly. Once Firefox supports the has selector, this will not be necessary. But as of right now, it is necessary. So I'm going to click the container, which is the entire card. I'm going to activate the class because I want to make this change to every price card alpha. I'm going to go to Style, Layout, Position Relative right here. So set it explicitly to position relative. And then my overflow, I want that to be hidden. Again, once Firefox supports has, you don't have to do that step. But for right now, that's the second step that you have to do. Now, all of my pricing cards have that step done, so I can add this ribbon to every other pricing card. It's going to be just fine. But you do have to remember, set the position to relative on the parent container, set the overflow to hidden on the parent container. But now I have a ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and save. We'll see it looks exactly the same on the front end. Now, what if I want to position that in the top left instead of the top right? Well, you guessed it. All I have to do is go back to my ribbon. And by the way, I would name it ribbon over here in the structure panel so it's easy to find. I'm just going to remove top right, and I'm going to do ribbon top left. Bam, now it is in the top left. Now on these cards in particular, that doesn't look so great because it covers up my plan name and some of my price. So I would not position the ribbon here. That would not be a good decision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it back to the top right. So I'm going to do ribbon double dash top right. Okay, and now it is back to where I want it positioned. Okay. Now the question is, can I style my ribbons? Well, first of all, let's talk about how did the ribbon become blue? By default, the ribbon gets our website's action color. If you don't want it to be your website's action color by default, that's fine. We're going to show you exactly how to change that. What you don't want to do is you don't want to come in here, click on the ribbon class, and just start trying to make different changes like this. There's a better way to do it because these ribbons are built with what are called locally scoped variables. And I'm going to go over to our documentation center right here. And I'm going to pull up the documentation for our ribbons. This is what I would suggest you read over before you use these ribbons. It shows you how to add your first ribbon. It shows you how to customize your ribbon. And it talks right here about the locally scoped variables that are available to you for customizing your ribbon. So we have a ribbon offset. We're able to change the ribbon's offset from the corner. We can change the ribbon's width. We can change the padding of the ribbon, the background color of the ribbon, the text color of the ribbon text size, and the ribbon's shadow. Now you can do other things beyond this. So if, for example, we want to uppercase the text, I'll show you how to do all of that in just a second. But I want to focus on how you use these locally scoped variables, why these locally scoped variables exist, and what their superpower is when it comes to creating many, many, many different types of ribbons. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to change the ribbon offset. This is the distance from the corner effectively, okay? So I'm going to copy that locally scoped variable right here. And by the way, right down here, it shows you what these default values are. So by default, the offset is -2 rem. So I'm going to go over here to my ribbon. I'm going to go to the ribbon class because I want this to apply to all of my ribbons by default. I'm going to go down to the CSS tab. I'm going to write the word root, which basically in Bricks is a reference for the current class that it's just like typing ribbon right here. So if you're using WP Codebox or an external CSS editor, you would just write, .ribbon to target the ribbon class. In Bricks, you can just type root because I already have the ribbon class selected. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paste my locally scoped variable. So I'm going to be changing my offset, and right away you can see the offset has jumped because it's waiting for a new value. The default is -2 rem. So if I set to -2 rem, it's going to look exactly like it looked before. If I set it to -1 rem, it's going to pull it away from the corner more. All right, if I put it to 0, it's going to pull it away from the corner even more. If I do -3 rem, it's going to pull it even closer to the corner. So you want that tighter kind of ribbon fit. You can get it closer to the corner by increasing the negative value. Again, 2 is the default. -1 goes further away. Every positive number will go away. So if I do 1 rem, it'll get even further away. And at this point, you notice, hey, it's not quite wide enough to fill the space. So what do we need to do now? If you wanted a ribbon that was this far from the corner, and this is going to depend on the size of your container, right? So if you want to change the ribbon width, what we have to do is now come in and say, my ribbon width needs to change. Notice that all the names of the variables are contextually accurate. Like I want to change my ribbon width, so it's ribbon width. I want to change the offset, so it's ribbon offset. It's very, very easy to remember. Once you've gone through the documentation once, you probably don't need it again thereafter, okay? So note that my default width is 30 rem. So if I put 30 rem, I'm not going to see a difference. It's still too short. Well, what is bigger than 30 rem? Well, 35 rem is bigger. 40 rem is bigger. These are all getting wider, but you know what? The width also changes the offset a little bit. So what you have to do is learn to tweak these two different variables. So I can say -1 rem, and now look, I have a wider ribbon that's still far away from the corner. That's what I was looking for. These two values really work together. So you need to find the width to offset ratio that is going to work for the specific container that you are working in, okay? Now, again, we're changing all ribbons by default here. So if you have a wide container or some oddly shaped container where there's a special ribbon width and a special ribbon offset, you're going to want to create a custom class for that. And I'm going to show you that in just a second, okay? But for now, what I want to do is I want to say, you know what? The ribbon width, the ribbon offset for this pricing card is actually perfect by default. I don't need to change those. But what I do want to change by default is the background color of my ribbon. So if I hop over here to the documentation, you can see that I have a ribbon background color, and I can go ahead and change that. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in. My new background color is going to be var base. So it's going to be my website's base color. And look at that. I now have a ribbon that is the base color. What if I wanted the ribbon text color? Let's go over here. You can see I have a ribbon text color. So I'm going to say ribbon text color is going to be var. And it's going to be, and actually you don't even have to write the var if you have your expansion turned on. So we can do base ultra light, and then it's going to wrap it. And now, you can't see a huge difference here, but that is a light gray. Okay. If I just did base light instead, you can see it's a little bit darker, but that's still readable. And I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here and look at that. And now we have a ribbon that actually contrasts our button color, which a lot of times is very useful. Maybe you definitely want to go that route. You could say, you know what, I don't want it to be the base, I want it to be the Action Ultra Dark color. Well, now it is the Action Ultra Dark color, which is still very dark, but it's got a little blue tint to it. And then I can say this is going to be Action Light. So my text is going to be the Action Light color. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save, refresh, and there you go. All right, so that's how to style the main ribbon class. So now all ribbons that I add, if I come over to this pricing card right here and I add a text element and I say, you know what, I want this one to say worst option. I don't know, you would never do that, right? But we're just gonna do that for comedic effect here. This is the worst option. And I'm just gonna say, hey, this is a ribbon and I want it positioned in the top right. And now look, it looks exactly like this one over here. I also have the ability to grab my ribbon class, come into the typography tab. I can do different things, like I can uppercase the text. I can make the text smaller. I can do that here, by the way, or if I go back to my variables, look at this. I have a ribbon text size variable. So I can not do this here. I can come down and let me keep my uppercase here. And I can go back to my CSS tab. If you want to keep all of your customizations in the same place, I need the word ribbon there. So ribbon text size is going to be text XS. And there you go. Now it's better. I can even come in here and say font weight. I don't even need a locally scoped variable for this. I'm just keeping all my styles in one place. And I can say it's going to be font weight 600. Now it is a bold ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. We'll refresh on the front end, check out what we're getting. So you can style these ribbons very easily however you would like. Now let's talk about styling just a one-off ribbon, right? So what if I take this styling right here and I do it at the ID level instead of at the class level? Now check out, my ribbons went back to their normal default value, and only this one ribbon will look like this because I've applied these styles at the ID level, which means, remember, every element has a unique ID. That means these styles only affect this one single instance of this element. You can absolutely do that using these locally scoped variables, using your own custom CSS, using this panel right here, whatever you want to do. I prefer to keep it all the same. That's why the locally scoped variables, there is no ribbon offset in this panel. There is no ribbon width really in this panel. Some of these things don't exist in this panel, so we created them as locally scoped variables. Thus, I would recommend putting all of your styles in one place just for organization and efficiency purposes, right? But if you still want to use the panel for other things, you absolutely can. Now, what I'm going to do is leave this here. So this ribbon will always look like this regardless of what we do to our other ribbons. What I want to do now is show you a third ribbon. And so I'm going to add another text element. And what we're going to do is say this is the OK option. We'll do this, OK option. This is just an OK option. We're gonna make this a span. We're gonna add the ribbon class. We're gonna position this in ribbon top right. And now let's say you've got a specific kind of product, right? Maybe it's like, hey, all products of this category are going to get a different ribbon style. Okay, so let's say that the ribbon category or the product category is services. So all my services are gonna get this colored ribbon. All my products are gonna get this other colored ribbon. So I'm gonna say ribbon / service. And that's gonna be a special style for services. And my ribbon on services thus is going to get this style. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down and I'm going to do my root. And once again, I'm going to use my locally scoped variable. So ribbon background color, and I could even say something like gold. And now it's going to make it a gold color. And then I can say my ribbon text. So you don't even have to use your own brand colors, you know? Now, you're probably going to want to know what you're doing with color when you do this. If you go like, off the beaten path, but still, you can do whatever you would like. So my ribbon text color is going to be black. And now I go ahead and hit save and refresh. Check that out. So I have a brand new style that I can use wherever I want. If I take this class off, it goes back to looking the way that it did. If I put that class back on, ribbon service, it's going to look like a service ribbon. I can do my, excuse me, my ribbon padding, and I can say 1em, 2em, and I can see how that looks. And look, now I have like a little fat ribbon there. Okay, so my ribbon just got a little bit fatter, got a little more plump. I can redefine my ribbon shadow. Ribbon shadow is going to be, let's do 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 60 pixels, minus 10 pixels. Let's make it some crazy colors. Let's do our action color. Okay, that looks absolutely awful, but check that out. I've got a brand new shadow style just to this set of ribbons. It did not affect any other ribbons that I created. So with the addition of modifier classes, with my normal global class, with ID level styling, I'm able to create one-off ribbons, global ribbons, contextual ribbons for certain situations. There's really no limitation here, okay? Next thing I want to show you is how you would be able to use dynamic ribbons inside of query loops. Now, I'm not going to create an entire query loop here, but I'm just going to demonstrate how you would approach this. So first thing that we would do is you would create a custom field for your ribbon text. What do you want your ribbon to say? And then you would simply dynamically insert that text by going up here, and instead of saying best option, you would select dynamic data. You would go find your custom field. You would put in. So this would be like custom field text right here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So we can have dynamic labels on our ribbons. Now, what if we want to position our ribbon from a custom field? So maybe in your custom fields, you have a top left and you have a top right. Okay, so we can go take away this top right class. Now our ribbon has no position whatsoever. I'm going to go to the style tab. I'm going to go down to attributes. And if we jump over here and we scroll down to this area that says dynamic ribbons, you can see that we can actually style these ribbons and position these ribbons with data attributes. And the data attribute you're looking for is data ribbon position. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to add an attribute, data ribbon position, and then I can simply put my same exact thing in here. Now, the only thing you have to understand if you're using Bricks Builder is Bricks Builder does not render styles that are attached to data attributes in the builder. But if I refresh this on the front end, you can see that my ribbon is still perfectly fine. It looks exactly it's supposed to be where it is, okay? So I'm gonna go down. You're just gonna see that this is unstyled, basically, or unpositioned, I should say, in the builder. But then all you have to do for this value is pass the value of a custom field. So your value should be top left or top right, and that will choose the position of the ribbon dynamically, okay? So now we can say, let's pretend that top right was the value. It puts that in dynamically, thus we get a top right positioned ribbon. Now the next question is, can you also change the style of the ribbon dynamically? And the answer is yes. So check this out. So remember over here, we created a ribbon, a nice custom ribbon. Let me go find it. It was ribbon service, and it had these styles right here. This ribbon background color was changed, text color, padding, the shadow, all of that was changed, okay? We also have this, normal ribbon right here. And so what we can do dynamically to change is we can come to data attributes, we can add another one, and we can say data ribbon style. And then we can pass a style, like it could be default or it could be service, right? So if we wanted to dynamically choose what kind of ribbon we want, again, we would be choosing this from dynamic data, custom field value. It puts in the custom field value. You're responsible for what values are available. You can have default, you can have service, you can have wide, you can have colors like black, or it could be, or a base ribbon, whatever you want to do here, you're able to do that. That's up to you, right? but let's say you'd said service. The data ribbon style is service. So I'm going to hit save. We're going to go to the front end. Notice the style does not match this because I have not assigned these styles to the data attribute yet. So what I'm going to do is and this is a little bit more advanced, okay, but I am going to show it to you. So we're going to go into a CSS editor. So I'm going to be using WP Codebox. I'm going to go to my global style sheet. Let's just get rid of all of this. We don't really need it. And what I'm going to do is style the data attribute. Data ribbon style equals, and I'm going to say, hey, if the data ribbon style is service, I want my ribbon to look like this. And I can get rid of the root. I can get rid of this, and I can bring this back. I just want all these to be positioned properly. Okay, let's select all of them, dash them in. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. So now I'm saying, hey, if the data ribbon style is service, change these values. And this is another reason why these locally scoped variables are so powerful, right? You don't have to write a bunch of CSS instructions. You simply have to get the locally scoped variables that you want to change and give them new values. So now I'm going to go ahead and refresh and look at this. Our custom ribbon that was being added dynamically, where the text is dynamic, now has a dynamic style as well. And so if you want to come over here and say data ribbon style is default, well, guess what? With the default, you don't even need these instructions, right? You don't even need these instructions, because if this gets the default value, then it's just going to have a style of default. So I'm going to refresh. It goes back to its default style because I haven't assigned a new style for the data attribute value of default, okay? But I'm free to do anything here. I could come down the list. I could create 100 of these. I could say product. If it's a product, it looks like this. If it's a base ribbon, it looks like this. If it's a gold ribbon, it looks like this. Whatever you want to do, you're able to do with these data attributes for dynamic ribbon styling. All right, I'm going to go back to camera here. So that is an overview of ribbons in Automatic CSS. Again, this is a new feature available to you in version 2.4. Go ahead and start playing with it. Let us know if there's anything that you think can make these ribbons easier. We are open to hearing about it, but we think we've done a fairly good job of making them both easy while making them more or less infinitely customizable. So drop a comment below if you like this feature, hit like on the video, and I'll be back very, very soon with more great features of Automatic CSS. Peace.